This video is sponsored by Ground News. Compare news sources, uncover media bias, and break free from algorithms. Visit ground.news now to empower yourself with unbiased information by using the link in the description. This is Germany, the fourth largest economy in the world by nominal GDP, and the largest economy in all of Europe by a significant margin, with a GDP of $4.3 trillion. For the past 20 years, the German economy has been the driving force behind the European economy. It has attracted many other countries to join the supply chains of German companies, helping them access foreign markets. Several new books have been published arguing that Germans do it better, suggesting that other countries have more to learn from Germany than vice versa. While Germany experienced the longest period of uninterrupted growth since reunification, in recent years, its economy has slowed down. Germany's economy is now lagging behind the US and most of Europe, and its growth rate is continually falling. It is easy to blame Germany's economic problems solely on the energy crisis caused by the war in Ukraine. The truth is that the country already had massive weaknesses before the crisis. The invasion of Ukraine has exposed Germany's dependence on cheap Russian energy, further worsening its long-standing economic challenges. Germany has been slow in decarbonising and digitising its economy, as well as addressing its demographic problems and acute shortage of skilled workers, an economy increasingly stuck in a rut. The German economy has thrived on high-quality manufacturing and export-oriented policies. Germany is a manufacturing powerhouse, a global leader in producing high-quality automobiles, machinery, chemicals, and industrial equipment. These products are exported to foreign markets, making Germany the third largest exporter globally. Exports contribute to 47% of the country's GDP, which is relatively very high compared to large economies like the US, China, India, and the UK. In 2015, Germany's trade surplus was about $255 billion, or almost 7.5% of the country's GDP. That continues an upward trend that's been going on at least since 2000. Undoubtedly, Germany makes good products that foreigners want to buy. One of the reasons Germany is able to export so many goods is because of its competitive advantage through weak wage growth. In general, wage trends are influenced by the overall health of an economy. During times of economic expansion, employees and labour unions tend to have a stronger bargaining position. However, this position weakens when the economy falters. Interestingly, in the case of Germany, real wages have hardly risen since the beginning of the 1990s, rarely surpassing 2%. Pay restraint is not just a problem for German workers, particularly the low-paid. Other euro area countries must keep an even tighter lid on wage growth to claw back their competitiveness. Without a doubt, the persistent weak wage growth over the years has strengthened the international competitiveness of German companies and encouraged exports, but it has also had an impact on household consumption, which has been declining since 1980. Currently, the share of consumer spending has fallen to 54% of GDP, significantly lower than in America or Britain. If workers were paid more, they would have more purchasing power and could buy more goods and services. This would result in fewer exports, as firms would produce for a larger domestic market, and likely an increase in imports. However, Germany is locked into a model that always puts exports ahead of anything else. It's not just the weak wage growth that affects household consumption in Germany, but also the country's changing demographics. With the average age of the population increasing and big cohorts of people saving for their retirement, Germans really don't spend much. The rate of household saving has been stable or rising since 2008. So, why is lower spending a real problem for Germany's economy? Because the Germans have been saving much more than they can invest. Individuals are filling piggy banks for their retirement, and firms expecting lower returns from older and smaller populations in the future are investing abroad instead of at home. Not only is private investment low in Germany, but public investment is also weak. Its school buildings and roads are crumbling because of the squeeze on public investment caused by misguided fiscal rules. Furthermore, the economy lags behind in its readiness for digitalization, ranking 36th in the world in average download speeds. Like other countries in Europe, Germany has not invested enough in diversifying its oil and gas supplies or exploring alternative energy sources. Consequently, it has become dependent on Russian energy, which has had a more severe impact on its industries and manufacturing sector compared to other European countries. Some energy-intensive industries like chemicals and fertilizer, metal industry, cement industry, paper and pulp industry are cutting back on production. German industrial production fell 3.4%, the biggest drop for 12 months. Germany did not just depend on energy, but also demand on foreign markets for their manufacturing goods. Volkswagen, Europe's biggest car maker, relies on China for 40% by volume of its sales. China is one of Germany's top trading partners for the 7th consecutive year, with combined exports and imports of more than $320 billion, up by around 21% from 2021. But now China's demand for German goods has decreased due to its strict zero-COVID policy. The past 3 years of pandemic shutdowns, Brexit, war, disrupted supply chains and stubborn inflation has slowed down Germany's manufacturing sector, which is suffering from a sharp decline, including lower factory output, plummeting demand, and a shrinking backlog of orders. As a consequence, the growth of the EU's largest economy has been impeded. Another important issue that needs to be addressed is the replacement of retiring workers. In Germany, about 64% of the population consist of people of working age, similar to the United States. However, the largest age groups in Germany are those in their late 50s and early 60s, and they will be retiring soon. Firms are already struggling to fill vacancies. Germany must consider revising its immigration policy, otherwise the labour market will lose 7 million workers by 2035, from the current 46 million. The shortage of skilled workers and weak productivity growth are affecting the car manufacturing industry. Car production in Germany reached its peak at around 6 million in 2012, and has been on a downward trend ever since. One reason for Germany's decreased productivity is the effective labour market reforms. These reforms have successfully integrated less qualified workers into the German job market, resulting in higher employment rates. However, this integration has also led to a decrease in average productivity per employed individual. This decline in average productivity, known as the composition effect, has significantly contributed to the notable slowdown in productivity growth within Germany's manufacturing sector. Productivity, in economics, is a way to measure how much output we get from a certain amount of input in economics. It tells us how efficiently resources like labour and capital are being used to produce goods or services. For instance, if a worker can make more products in the same amount of time compared to another worker using the same resources, then the first worker is more productive. In fact, productivity can be improved through innovation and research and development, or R&D. When the economy invests in R&D and develops new technologies, processes, or products, it can lead to increased productivity. It is not that Germans are not innovative. The mighty economy of Europe seems to have a pretty solid and well-funded system for coming up with new ideas to stay ahead of the game. They invest a lot in research and development, ranking third in G7 countries, just behind the United States and Japan. Around a third of patents filed in Europe come from Germany. Way back in 1900, the very first hybrid car, called the Semper Vivus, was created by Ferdinand Porsche. It was a remarkable invention, and the first self-driving car, the Vamos van, was built by Mercedes in 1986. About 34% of global electric car patents are German. But much of the innovation in Germany is concentrated in traditional engineering fields such as transportation and machinery, while it has lagged behind in developing and innovating digital businesses and digitizing the economy. The fact is that Germany isn't a digital economic powerhouse. According to OECD Digital Government Index, Germany has the lowest score in the data-driven public sector dimension among the 29 OECD countries. The digitization of the economy is all about how technology has made it cheaper to store, share, and analyze data. This change has had a big impact on how people shop and behave as consumers, how businesses are organized, and even how governments work. It's basically the shift towards using digital technology to do things more efficiently and effectively in the economy. Despite multiple promises from various chancellors to invest in digital technology and skills, very little progress has been made so far. Germany's public administration still heavily relies on outdated analog methods. For example, during the pandemic, health authorities primarily used fax machines instead of modern digital systems. Schools have outdated computers, and town offices have limited or no online services available to the public. Even though Germany is renowned for its technology and engineering prowess, It falls behind other advanced economies when it comes to digital transformation. The average usage of mobile data and connection speeds are relatively low, and the availability of high-speed internet is unevenly distributed between urban and rural areas. However, let's not underestimate the German economy. There has been progress in certain areas, especially within the private sector. The government's gigabit strategy aims to connect at least 50% of households and businesses to the optical fiber network by 2025, with a goal of achieving full household connectivity by 2030. Mittelstand companies, especially those in the engineering and machinery industries, have been making notable progress. They are adapting to the digital economy and embracing new technologies. However, it's important to remember that transitioning to a digital economy requires a cultural shift, which takes time. With the right political reforms, Germany can catch up and ensure that its public sector is up to date with digital advancements. Nevertheless, by 2030, Germany will not be able to fully bridge the gaps in its investment and military capabilities. It requires a substantial change in economic policy, as much as it needs the promised adjustments in its investment, military and foreign policies. To research stories like this, I've been using Ground News, and I am grateful to have them as today's partner. By using Ground News, particularly in this case, we can compare how media from different countries report the information about Germany's recession and its economy. I can look at how many sources are reporting it, as well as the political leaning of those that are covering the event. I can also check how reliable all of those sources are and even who owns them. And when that's not enough, Ground News allows you to do side-by-side comparisons of headlines to understand how different media organizations are portraying the issues, and they even have a handy blind spot tool to help you discover the stories that you might never have seen. Ground News is an extremely powerful tool for navigating the news. I use it literally every day. Embrace the power of informed analysis and critical thinking. Visit Ground News today through my link in the description to get 30% off unlimited access for as little as $5 a month.